Welcome to heCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. My name is Mike Chisholm, and I am excited to be here. I'm always excited to be here. I'm always excited to do these podcasts. I love picking the brain of some of these guests that we have, most of these guests that we have, and being surprised and delving into what it is to be a man at this point here. Thank you very much for the support that you have so far of the He Changed It app. If you haven't downloaded it yet, download it, sign up. We would love to have you in the community. And thanks for being our audience here with heCast. Today, my guest is one of my favorite people. I've said that before. And this guy here has a really special place in my heart. I know a lot of unique people, and Andre is one of my favorite people. To describe who he is and what he does is very difficult for me because I could call him a natural healer. I could call him a philosopher. I could call him a friend. I could call him a spiritual advisor. There are so many facets to what make up our guest today here, and it's going to be fun just to scratch the surface on a few of those things. Andre Borak, thank you for taking time out of your day. Thank you very much for allowing me to intrude this into our friendship, to have you sit down and talk to us a little bit. One of the things I left out was inventor. You're also an inventor, but you didn't start that way.
No, and thank you for that intro. That was amazing. That's heartwarming. So
any of it not true? It's all true, man. And it is. I'm baffled sometimes by the wealth and the breadth of experience that you have, and it's really fun watching you take all of the pieces that have been your life up to this point and put them together for the picture that you're building. And I think you'd agree with that is exactly what's happening.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw a quote somewhere where it talked about people reaching different points of development in their life and how everyone's comparing themselves along the road to other people, thinking that by 20, 30, 40, you should be here. Everybody is a different batch of wine. Everyone is a different grape, and the wine all matures at different rates. And it's fascinating because I feel like I said this to my wife. I said, it's really weird, but I feel like that bottle of wine that's finally matured, and it's taken this long to get there, where all of these hobbies and interests and things that I've been drawn to are just literally melting into like a bottle of wine. So it's an interesting time for sure.
I want to go back because again, you have got a lot of experience in your life and a lot of school of hard knocks, but also valuable lessons just through learning and things. Was natural healer kind of the first sort of passion that you kind of had and followed and felt the calling for? What was the first calling that you felt in your life?
Yeah, probably. Ever since I was a little kid, I remember always wanting to be a healer. I got involved as a personal trainer first, and that whet my appetite. Once I got that, it was like, okay, this is just scratching the surface. And then I had one of those kind of life-changing moments in my 20s where my car got washed out in a ditch somewhere in the East Souk Mountains in Victoria, and I was lost, and I had to literally hike up to this top of this mountain in a rainstorm to figure out where I was and catch my bearings. And I remember saying, okay, God, if you get me out of this, I'll do whatever you want because I don't know what's going on. And it was one of those pivotal moments where it was like, that whole experience. When I came back, I'd hurt myself on the hike and I wasn't getting better. And then I went to see an acupuncturist and she healed me in one session, and that then led the trajectory to where I'm at now.
So there's the gateway drug is the acupuncture. And you went down the path of Chinese medicine at first, right?
Yeah.
And how far did that path go? Like, talk a little bit about that. Like if I know a practitioner of Chinese medicine, I know stereotypes and I know things that I think in my head what that means. Yeah. I know after I met you, many of those things were challenged and corrected. Yeah. What does it mean to be a practitioner of Chinese medicine?
Well, when I did it, it was a long time ago. It was when, you couldn't be an acupuncturist or a herbalist. You did the full meal deal. It was like a 4 or 5 year program. And it was different, like to decide to start learning about Chinese herbs and Tuina massage and Qigong, energy movement and acupuncture. But the fascinating thing was I just had this innate ability to get it. I don't even know, like my teachers kept saying, how did you know that? And I said, I don't know. I just did. And I would always know what to do without knowing how, and then later find out the information that would explain to me why it worked.
Right.
So I believe subconsciously there was either a part of me that, he maybe did it before, knew how to do it, whatever.
Right.
And in my third year, when we started practicing, we had 2 or 3 clinic days a week where you had, I think Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you had 4 or 5 hours. Within the first month, I was booked solid. I had, 12 clients a week, and that was for 2.5 years. So it just happened. And I have, like you, the gift of gab, and I'm good at explaining stuff to people, and I'm really good at analogies, and I was just having fun. At the end of the day, I realized that most of the people take themselves way too seriously. Their issue or imbalance, their temporary imbalance, becomes their identity. And I would challenge that, especially with making them laugh. And then people liked it. And, oh, look, I got better. And then they would tell their friends. And then, it just kind of snowballed. Yeah. And I'll never forget, I had one of my mom's friends, she got sciatica really bad. And I did a house call and I gave her one treatment. And she was fine. And she was so happy. And my mom gave me so much heck for fixing her into one treatment, because she says, how are you supposed to stay busy? And I said, Mom, don't worry. She has lots of friends.
Absolutely. And I think that's when I think about what our modern day North American stereotypical medical system versus what you're talking about right there. The idea in what you were taught was to essentially to cure. Mm-hmm. And cure is not something that we really talk about these days, other than very big things. But you wanted to cure the little ailments. That's what you were taught to do, to cure little things.
Yeah. Well, the whole idea, that we were taught is work on the syndrome, not the symptom. A symptom is something that comes about because it's part of a syndrome. It's a symptom. So removing the symptom doesn't fix the problem, right? So the analogy that I always heard was, it's like your check engine light coming out on your car and cutting the wire. Oh, problem solved. Well, no, there's still something going on. But, and I had an incredible teacher, and he was very, very effective. And he really helped me understand that if you don't help someone with at least 75% of their issues in 3 treatments or less, you're doing them a disservice.
Wow.
So I always took that to heart, because he was like, no, you fix people, there will always be people to fix.
Right.
You don't keep someone coming back and fix them in 5 to 10% each time. He goes, because then you're not a good doctor and you're doing them a disservice. So I always took that to heart and tried to get better, faster, quicker. And then that's where all this other stuff came into, because it was like, okay, how can I, if this takes me 4 treatments, how can I do it in 2? Or if this, just being inquisitive and wanting to learn more.
Before we kind of move on past the and I'm sure we'll go back and forth a little bit. What are some of the things that you were taught in doing? You saw a lot of people who were, you were kind of you were down the path of solutions for people. People kind of didn't go to you the first time, because they went down the conventional side, and they would run into roadblocks or whatever. And it's like, well, maybe you can go talk to this guy, but people sometimes will think, oh, you're a little out there, right? Yeah, very, very commonplace for you, for people to. How did you deal with that? And what are some of the things that you kind of were able to show people? What were some of the lessons that come from that?
It makes me think of, when I opened my practice first time by myself in Grand Forks, my daughter was just born.
So small town, small forest town.
Went from, hair down to here, long haired off, like literally living off the grid, making my own power, making my own water.
Wow.
Full on long haired hippie to, oh, we're pregnant. So buy a house, start a business, cut my hair. And I did, I thought, like, basically what I do is so out there as it is that I have to completely fake it till I make it. So I cut my hair real short. I wore tortoiseshell glasses. I wore a white doctor's smock. And I thought, if I can at least portray what people are used to seeing in a health practitioner.
It's a bridge.
It's a bridge. Exactly.
Gotcha.
So yeah, you're right. I did see people after they tried everything and nothing worked. But what I always said is, okay, well, where are you at now on a scale of 1 to 10? If we can bring it down from 10 to 9, is that good? Well, that's great. Okay, well, so let's try for that. Let's try for a difference, because a difference leads to a result, right? So then a small town, people talk. I had one or two great sessions with a gal that was the talk a lot of the town. And, I got in with the local Russian community, and then it was just, and then it got to the point where I even became good friends with the doctors, and they'd say, you know what, go see Andre. He'll help you out. So that was pretty cool.
Isn't that the way it's like? In a perfect world, you think about all this technology that we have at our fingertips and innovation and all of the advancements that we're making on the technological medical side, or the North American traditional medical side. Isn't the goal though that everybody could kind of work together and learn together because what you're talking about, your techniques and all of these things are completely different, but that doesn't make them incompatible. I was going to say, better or worse, but incompatible.
And that was once again from my teacher, because I was lucky enough to have a couple of teachers that had doctorates in both Eastern and Western medicine. So imagine that, like, here, everybody has one. There, the best doctors had both. So you come and see this doctor who is a traditional, GP, Westernly speaking, and a traditional GP, Easternly speaking. Mm-hmm. So he would say, okay, well, we're going to give you some acupuncture first. Then we're going to get you on some food cures. And if that doesn't do it, then we're going to get you on some pharmaceuticals, this, and this.
Right.
And the way that I was taught was that, in China, it's all used together because there's too many people to not have as many tools in your toolbox as possible. And I'm a big fan of Western medicine, but I realized that just like any tool, every tool has its limits. Like a crescent wrench can't fix everything.
Right.
So, I have a great relationship with my GP, and, I have nothing against. And I think that's where a lot of holistic or alternative practitioners,
they get on a team and they stay on that team,
or they start to have a little bit of a hate on for Western medicine. And there's the whole, the money. I get it. That's something else, but you can't, people are just trying to do the best with the skills and the knowledge that they learned. Don't be upset at someone or angry at someone from the get-go because they are from a different school of thought. Right.
That's an interesting way. I wish people would think about that a little bit more, especially in the times that we live in right now. There's so much polarization, and it seems like every single genre of our culture is starting to become polarized.
It's going to the extreme, like the happy place is in the middle.
And that's exactly right. That's where compromise lies, and it's cool that that. And that's one of the reasons why I love having you in my life. It's nice having people who don't feel so extreme about one thing and can compromise and can see the value of many things. You can see it in the medical world. I got to ask this question. So you saw a lot of people who were born and raised, you moved to the bigger city and you had practice here and things like that. I've been on your table before. You see a lot of people who have grown up with the Western medicine doctrine and traditions and things. And that's all they really know. Mm-hmm. And they sit down with you. Now, I guess my question for you is, was there one thing or two things that were kind of the majority of not maybe the majority, but a common pattern of what you would see from people who were like that? Or was everybody that would sit down in front of you their own unique puzzle?
Yes to both.
Interesting.
So everybody's their own unique puzzle.
Yep.
Everybody comes in with their own belief system that you have to, instead of try and reconstruct, work around.
Right.
And for instance, like when I started practicing laser acupuncture, this one gentleman and I did it because people were afraid of needles, which is sure, totally cool.
Absolutely.
So I went, okay, well, you know what? I don't need to use them. Let's focus on non-invasive. And I got busy doing that. And there was one gentleman that I worked strictly, he had this big swollen ankle, twisted it, strictly laser. And, I think I worked on him on a Friday and I ran into him on a Sunday at the grocery store. I was like, oh, hey, Bob, look at you walking around. Your ankle's doing great. That's awesome. I'm glad the treatment helped. He's like, well, I don't think it's what you did. And I'm like, what? And he goes, well, I don't think it's what you did. I didn't feel anything. And I said, okay, so because you didn't feel anything, you didn't make the connection? No. So he kind of brushed it off as, well, I just got better on my own.
Wow.
So that's when I had learned, then I have to work around. So I started using these little acupressure suction cups. Right. Well, the suction cup, oh man, that hurts. Did I ever feel that? That suction cup sure did work. Oh, okay.
Wow. So they couldn't even make the jump because they didn't feel it.
So what I learned to do, I think because I grew up in Toronto as a kid in the 80s, and it was, in the Parkdale district, which is like East Vancouver.
Okay.
And when I went to the Bronx and they said, this is, when I did the bus tour through New York and drove through Bronx, I went, wow, this is just like home. Yeah. And I realized I grew up in a rough part of town where you gut instincts, you learn to read people really quick.
Right.
And then when you can read someone, you can work around it. Right. And then as I did, got into other jobs, you had to do personality trainings. And, you start realizing if you're dealing with an intellectual wants the facts. If you're dealing with a creative, you can be light and airy fairy, and just learning quickly what to work around each person and realizing this person's going to need, the information. This person doesn't care. They just want to be made to feel good.
Right.
And kind of just just working around how people are wired, because if you're going to try and bulldoze them over, it's not going to work and they're not going to come back.
And that makes a lot of sense. I imagine, because I mean, we talk about this stuff and I know what our sessions were like versus, but I imagine learning about supplements, and that kind of takes you to the next phase of where you went to, but a lot of supplements in what people are experiencing. Was there one supplement that you see people just kind of missing the boat on normally, and it's like, oh yeah, no, take this. This is going to make you feel a lot better. Like, was there
when I was going to school, I worked in the health food industry, and I've been part of it since the 90s. So I've tried every supplement out there, and there's a lot of different. But what I used to tell people is like, you don't need to take more than 5 supplements. Like your basic omegas, like a good full spectrum, a basic full mineral, an antioxidant. A good constitution builder and a play supplement, because everyone wants to play with something, right? So one of my personal faves was I love maca. Maca powder is an incredible adaptogen, but learning with Chinese herbology about the energetics of herbs. Some herbs are warming, some are cooling. So that's where you get some people say, oh, I took ginseng. I felt like I was going to explode because it was the wrong ginseng, right?
Right.
So I used to sell a lot of maca, because it's like, look, if you don't know where to start. Like in my practice, we were taught when you got someone with 101 symptoms, start with the gut, get the bodybuilding blood, get the body balance, and it will heal itself. And that's one of those supplements where it's a sweet potato, which in Chinese medicine is a spleen digestive tonic. It builds blood, it balances hormones, it gives you all the aminos and minerals, thickens your hair, Yeah. So it's like, why wouldn't you take this and chlorella? Was the other one, because a lot of people don't realize, like when NASA chlorella, it's an algae. Okay. And when NASA shoots people in outer space, they live off chlorella because it has every single thing the human body needs to survive. So when I was watching this special on space travel and they started talking about chlorella, I instantly perked up. And you figure if NASA and the United States government, with their unlimited resources, researched everything on the planet, this one ingredient. It has probiotics, it has minerals, it's
a building block.
It has everything. It has protein, right? So why, instead of taking a multivitamin that's put together by some guy in a lab, why wouldn't you take something that was put together by nature, right?
Right.
So those were my two. It's like, get on some chlorella, get on some maca. That'll cover most of your bases, and then figure it out from there.
And so there was a lot of people who that's really all it is. And the only reason why I'm asking that is there are people out there who have run into brick walls, trying to figure out what it is that's causing them to feel a certain way, either physically, maybe mentally, whatever those things are. And they haven't maybe thought of going to see somebody who is alternative is the word, right? I guess alternative healer. Yeah,
it used to be alternative. Now it's more holistic more, just it's because when I was doing this 20 years ago, people would be like, you do what? Yeah. Now it's become just a health practitioner. Right. Right. So it's amazing how much has changed quickly, especially in the last 5-10 years.
I can talk. We've never really talked about my wife's background with this stuff, and she's always had the goal to heal, and she's been down the natural healing practitioner road. That's for a long time. With He Changed It, that's just an extension as far as I'm concerned. She just wants to help me.
Cut you off there. And what we're talking about is what I find it interesting is because I'm in the same more or genesis right now, where when you're a healer, you can only heal as many people as you can stand in front of in an hour in a day. Yes. Right? When you start healing people, not only is it rewarding to them, it's rewarding for you. It makes you feel alive. Right. You start getting to a point where you realize, you know what? If I work 5 hours, that's 5 people times 5 days. That's only 25 people a week. Right. I want to heal 100 people a day. Multitudes. So that's, what I think is going on with Candy is she's a healer by nature. And now with doing this, which is awesome, she wants to heal more and more and more and more. Right. And I'm feeling the same thing with my formulations and my lines and stuff, where it's like, I'm not healing as many people as I can today. How many more people can I heal?
So you've downloaded the app now.
Yeah, really. I really enjoyed it. I like how quick it was to use, really easy to figure out. And right away, I liked the mood button, because there are many days where, you wake up and you're like, I feel off. I feel angry, or I feel bitter, or I feel depressed. And how do I get out of this funk? So it was interesting because right away I went to the mood button and searched a little bit, and it's going to be great.
Oh man, I'm so glad to hear that, because it's such a labor of love for Candy and where she's at, and the idea of being able to heal many, many, many people as opposed to just one person with a supplement here and there. And I know you share that. I know that's what you're starting to do now with what you're doing right now. But I want to talk a little bit about, because you moved into the supplement business. You were actually working for some supplement companies for a while too, right? I mean,
Yeah, I've done it all. I've sold on the floor. I've managed departments. I was an outside sales rep. It got to the point where the only thing left was not doing it on my own. And I've been around, like I said, in the health food industry since the 90s, seeing people who are my colleagues create these little lines that then took off and, started companies that are now, being sold. And it was like, you know what? If they can do it, why can't I? But it's funny how it all happened. I was, so focused on supplements as internal products, and the reality of getting a supplement out, it takes time, it takes money. There's a process.
Sure.
And I wound up somehow getting into natural, healthy cosmetics because of my practice veering into anti-aging, because, you help someone with acupressure, acupuncture to get rid of a sore knee or shoulder. They feel great. They don't come back. Yeah. Yet if you lift a lady's eyelids or tighten her chin, she's booking every week.
Sure. Absolutely.
So I didn't expect that. And then this natural cosmetic, healthy cosmetic line that I have just grew out of that.
Well, and it's the idea that you are in some ways, and I don't want you to be modest here, because you're really pushing the envelope when you're combining technology with some of these techniques are thousands of years old.
Yeah, it's I remember reading a book where it was talking about synergy. And it's synergy. I'm synergizing my hobbies, my passions, my knowledge. Yeah. It's like cooking. It's like, why wouldn't I add these different ingredients that I know to this? Because it makes perfect sense. The fact that it doesn't exist yet, or someone hasn't done it, just makes it even better for me to do.
You're a guy that has allowed me to use a very cool word in everyday life that I normally have associated with fantasy. That's the word plasma.
Yeah.
Plasma water.
Yeah.
Like talk a little bit about this concept. You feel like Tesla a little bit here, buddy.
Well, it's in my practice, I actually use a Tesla device. It's called a photon sound beam.
Photon. That's another word I never got a chance to use other than being a fan of science fiction.
And this device uses hypercharged electric plasma. It was invented in the late 1800s and was used by most Western medical doctors until the 1920s. So what it is a little glass tube filled with inert gases that is then charged with voltage. And what it does is that plasma puts out healing frequencies. It puts out healing energies. It boosts the zeta potential of the blood. It's basically like electrical food, because our body, when you think of it on a cellular level, broken all the way down, communicates through little bursts of photon light.
Sure. Well, electrical pathways that
everything, your nervous system, your cellular structure. When a cell splits, it releases a burst of light. Right? So why wouldn't you feed that electrical light to your body as nourishment? That's what Tesla figured out. And I've had this device for like 15 years. And it doesn't fix everything, but it sure does a lot.
Okay, so what are some of the things that it does? And I mean, I've been a recipient. Yeah. I know it, but what are some of the practical applications that you've been able to use with this in your practice?
The biggest thing that shocked me when I was working with a gal that did Lorraine. You remember her, did live blood cell analysis. Yep. Her mom used to come in and see me. She was 83, and she always liked coming because she felt good. So we did a live blood cell analysis before and after the treatment. Well, before, you took the picture and all the cells were kind of clumped together, a little muddy blood plasma, typical 83-year-old blood. Yeah. After, an hour later, all the cells were perfectly spaced apart and the blood plasma was clean. She was shocked. She was like, this is impossible. But the big thing that it does is for one, it's kind of like, you know how electricity normally wants to go down the path of least resistance? Okay. This does the opposite. It wants to go through the path of most resistance, opening up all the block channels, liquefying arthritis, opening up circulatory pathways, increasing the zeta potential, which is your blood's ability to do work on a scale of 1 to 10, where most people's, as they get older, goes down and down. So it's basically like your cell phone. When it's fully charged, that's 10. When it's about to die, that's 1 or 2. Right. This is like literally plugging your phone into the wall to get a recharge, and that's what it does to your whole body. But then what I found is when you use it on the skin, it tightens, it lifts, it does this and that. And then so I've kind of morphed into this anti-aging person expert where when you come see me, you get a facial with this electrical plasma and acupressure with magnets, and it turns into a whole body balance that just happens to make you look and feel younger. And then
that's one of the side effects.
That's just a side effect,
but the actual, but it's a side effect based on your body is actually a little bit more whole, a little bit more well, and because of that, your physical appearance reflects that.
I have 2 clients in their 80s, both female, who had white hair when they started to see me. They both now have full colored hair.
Wow.
Yeah, and they didn't dye it. This came back naturally. One of my clients, Pam, she's 83 years old. When she used to have white hair, now she has brown hair. She has a little tiny white streak here. My other client, Roz, same thing. You know, she's 86, white hair. Now her hair's come in blonde. You know?
I look at this because so many people look at medicine as something we need to fix something. Like there's a massive ailment. I've broken my arm. I need to fix this is the best analogy. Because when you break a bone, you got to set that sucker and you got to heal it as best you can. I get that. But really, at the end of the day, if somebody were to go and be proactive about being healthy, whatever that looked like, whether it was an achievement to run a 4-minute mile or go to the gym so they can get great big pecs and biceps and things like that. This is almost like that. It's almost like when you exercise with no outcome, sometimes cool things happen. You notice things, abs pop out or whatever that might be. When people go and see somebody like what you do, you're not necessarily going for a tangible result in the way that traditional Western medicine, I'm going in to set the bone, right? But things like that can happen where you get the color of the hair back or you feel, you
do get, your main core clients are, people with injuries, right?
Sure.
Then it turned into people with digestive disorder, menopause, a lot of imbalance. Because when I used to run my practice, I was focused, I was trained to run a general practice. So I was trained on geriatrics, pediatrics, menopause, all that stuff. And then I kind of started veering into the anti-aging because it was more fun.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. When you were always working on heavy stuff, it's heavy, right? And it takes a lot out of you as a practitioner, but you want to do it. But when you help someone look younger, it makes them so happy that it's contagious. So now it's like I still work on, a large part. I would say it's 50-50. 50% is still internal issues, injuries, that kind of stuff. Then the other 50%, or I'd say 10% is preventative. And then the other 40 is anti-aging.
Right. And the preventative, I think, is the one that doesn't get its due. I think when you go and we think about getting a physical. Oh, it's been 5 or 6 years. I better go get a physical, whatever that looks like. In your world, if somebody just goes to quote unquote get a physical, maybe they come see you after a couple of months where they don't really necessarily have something wrong. That's where magic can really happen. And it sounds like you're tapping into something with the de-aging in that part of the process.
Well, that's where I always tell people, it's like, look, most people has a car. You got to take your car in for regular maintenance, right? Yep. Or you have either preventative or, you have issues and it's going to cost you more money. You got to go in for regular oil changes. Well, the problem is you go through many cars in your life. The only vehicle that takes you through your whole life that you have one of is your body.
Yes.
Why wouldn't you give it that same honor or more?
Right.
Right. So it's like, I'm just a mechanic. When you come to see me, I'm working on your vehicle. My job is to make sure. And I will tell people, it's like, look, you're doing okay. Let's push you out to 6 or 8 weeks because I don't need to see you again. You're fine. Yeah. You're cruising. Come to see me when it's time for a tune-up, or, where people will say, well, every 3 to 4 weeks just makes me feel good. Okay, perfect. You found your sweet spot. Yeah.
And sometimes those accidental results are the best ones. And that's really what's taken you to this place of the idea of not just healing the person sitting on your table or sitting across from you, but actually healing many, many, many people. And you've taken some of these techniques and you've been able to apply them to products that can make a difference in people's lives. And I want to talk a little bit talk about the water. Tell me about the water, what you did and how this happened.
Once again, always trying to get more efficient, get better. When I do the facelifts, I'm swiping the plasma up and down. And one day I just thought, well, water's a conductor of electricity. So I sprayed some water. Oh, look at that. It's stronger. And then I thought, well, silver is a conductor of electricity. Why don't I use some colloidal silver? And then it turned into, well, copper is a conductor of electricity. Isn't that good for collagen too? So then it turned into, well, let's add some gold. And then why don't we add some rose essential oil? Because the plasma pushes it in to past the epidermis.
Right.
It's an antioxidant. Well, once I did that, in my first week, 5 ladies asked to buy it off me. And I went, I don't make this to
So
sell.
what does that look like? Tell me, what does it mean? Like you're
Well, you just, as you're swiping and working on a lady's face, you're just sort of spraying it down with this.
spraying down the water and you're moving the plasma over top of them. You're not even touching them.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's kind of like, an electrical, any electricity that gets wet, touches your skin is going to be a lot stronger.
Right.
So, I reached the max capability of my device, but I wasn't satisfied. And then it turned into, so then I thought, I think I got something here. So, many years ago, I used the same machine to infuse 8 hertz, which is a theta wave frequency, which is where your brain is at deep rest and relaxation.
Dreaming, right?
Yeah, theta waves.
Theta waves. It's,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I took this to work at the health food store when I was working, and it was just distilled water with the rod in it, pulsating 8 hertz overnight. I gave people, and right away their shoulders would drop. Like, oh man, what is in that? I feel so calm. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? That's, so it was something that I had experience with. I didn't understand it, but I knew that it was real. And then one day I just stumbled upon Dr. Masaru Emoto's work from Japan. And he's got his book, The Power of Water, and he's a water scientist.
Okay.
And he's the guy that actually took water, played it music and froze it. And then as you freeze the water, it makes, orchestras make beautiful crystalline structures. Heavy metal or angry music makes mud kind of.
Yeah.
Right? But then he also, took water and wrote, I love you. Froze it, one that said, I hate you. And the difference was profound.
I've done this. I've actually done the experiment where I've had 2 glasses of water. One, I've yelled and screamed and then I just unleashed all of the negative venom that I had on it. And the other one I did the opposite with and frozen them and seen the results. I've actually done it because someone challenged me to do it. And it wasn't even you, because you and I bonded on this when and it's you see it. You see it. You see the clouds and versus the clarity.
Yeah.
It's a crazy experiment.
It's insane. And it was like, I watched that movie it was just on YouTube, and it was like, jaw dropped the whole time. And the next day I woke up and I went, I know what to do. So then I basically infused the base of the solution, which is once again, water technology that comes out of Japan. And, you play with the water molecules so it absorbs better. But then I infused it basically with homeopathic frequencies. So with my Rose product, it has frequencies for collagen production, youthing, anti-aging, skin tightening. So it's basically a homeopathic product without saying homeopathic. It's you can say frequency infused.
Frequency infused water that has very cool results.
Yeah, and people are into, crystal water. So guess what? There's a crystal in each bottle. And that crystal is also infused with all the different frequencies, because people in the know will say, well, yeah, I get this, but how do you prevent your frequencies from dropping off? Because they will. And I said, well, that's why there's a little crystal in there, because a crystal that's infused with those frequencies pumps it out 24/7, never stops. So people that actually drink crystal water there's a tangible difference in taste and feel. So with my products, the longer they sit, the stronger they get.
So your product is a product where people will just spritz it or apply it.
Brought one. Yeah, it's just basically like a skin hydrator, water-based, nanoparticulates of precious metals, frequencies, essential oils, antioxidants, a little collagen. And what's fascinating is I've just become very good friends with this beautiful lady who's the health and beauty coordinator, and she's from Egypt, and she used to be a makeup artist for Chanel. And when she met me, she's like, oh my God, I had to talk to you because I saw your products and couldn't believe that there's someone doing this here in Kelowna, because this is the big trend in Europe right now is water-based products, especially with precious metals and this and that, because, she's like, you're on point. And I always felt like I didn't want them to be super oily for some reason. I just wanted a little hint, because just like homeopathy, if you put one drop, it'll work. Right. Well, she explained it to me as it's like going for a run, coming home thirsty, instead of grabbing water, grabbing some olive oil. It's not what your skin wants. Right. So your skin wants hydration. So yeah. So it's been an interesting couple of years. It's grown really, really well. I've got a dozen products formulated, but I'm only one guy. Right. So I'm trying to, figure it out. I'm at the point where I have to start team building, and I want to revolutionize the health and beauty industry with products that, nobody has seen, because to me, they already exist, And
the tip of the spear of that goal is already happening. You've already got products that are in stores here in Western Canada, and you're talking about distribution deals all over the place. So what's the product line called?
It's called Divine Aqua Vitae, and Aqua Vitae means golden water of life.
You got an E on the end there, right?
Yeah, DIVAE.
Okay.
And because Aqua Vitae, it's funny, but it was the alchemists, when they would make their gold waters, they would call it the Aqua Vitae. And I make the gold and all the precious metals that go into that solution. So it was just a natural fit.
You can go to the store for $10, buy a bottle of it. And
You can get a small bottle, you can get a large bottle.
Yeah.
They keep, I've got some that are 2.5 years old, so they don't really spoil.
Right.
But you can use it as a skin hydrator. You can use it as an energy shifter. I have a sage that is basically a liquid smudge because people love smudging with smoke.
Yeah.
Well, this is something that you spray, and it's got sage, cedar, pine, which is the traditional native smudge, but it's also infused with solfeggio frequencies, which is a whole other school of thought, but it's a frequency that destroys negative energy and grounds you. So my wife started using this in her yoga class, and she was like, letting her friends use it, and they all started buying because they're like, this stuff pushed me into my mat, grounded me so hard. I felt like I was 10 feet underground. Okay.
And I want to, with what we just talked about there's a lot of guys obviously that listened to this podcast. Most of our listening base is guys. Yeah. You're a man's man. Yeah. You are a man's man. One of the things we bond on is cars, and you love
I'm a greaser. Yeah.
You're absolutely a man's man. But you're talking about these things like energy and faith. Like seriously, you can say, and you can change a whole lot of different things that are going on, whether you know them or not. Yeah. And little supplements can do that, and little teeny tiny changes can make huge differences in people's lives. Mm-hmm. And you're a testament to that. Yeah. How do people take you when they,
it's kind of a blessing and a curse, right? Like I've learned now in my older years to really only talk to people that ask. Okay. or release little bits of information at a time, because there is something called cognitive dissonance, right? Where you can actually, if you have a piece of information that even though it's valid, true, replicatable, and based on science, if it goes against a person's belief system, they'll pop into their reptilian part of their brain and go into fight or flight. So I've learned now to slow into that, because, my goal is to help people, not to aggravate them. Where sometimes if something works, well, for instance, when I was first starting, I was doing demos, and this lady came up to me and she had her arms crossed and she's like, "So what's this?" And I said, "Well, it's a unique health and beauty line with frequencies and, metals and gold and the yada, yada, yada." "Oh yeah, that stuff." And I said, "Well, would you like to try some?" "Well, it's not going to do anything." I said, "Well, that's quite the attitude to have, isn't it?" So she kind of chuckled a little bit. I said, "Look, just spray some on your face. You'll see how you feel." "Well, I'm not putting it on my face." I said, "Okay, then how about on the back of your hand? It's a nice patch of skin. Let's spray it on one side. And then, you can walk away." Mm-hmm. And I said, in 10 or 15 minutes, I guarantee you, not only will your skin look better, but you'll have a burst of energy, because it was my citrus energy solution. And she says, "Oh yeah, as if." I said, "Well, what do you got to lose?" I said, "We're just sitting here having a nice conversation." She said, "Okay, fine." So I did it. And she's like, yeah, okay, it smells good, but whatever. She walked away, right? Mm-hmm. 10, 15 minutes later, she comes by, she gives me the hairy eyeball, grabs a bottle, walks to the till and buys it.
Wow.
So I always tell people the proof's in the pudding. It's just if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Right.
So my products, like he, is a grassroots ground level thing that is actually still growing because they work. And I base everything on science, but it's on science most people have never heard of, comes from different parts of the world, or even quantum physics. And quantum physics, even traditional scientists are having a hard time, getting on board with, even though it's science that's been around for almost 50 years.
I'm glad that you brought that part up, because we like I told you, it's going to go fast, and we're ready to close up here. But I do want you to talk about this, because I think it's really one thing I love about you, and there are many, is your authentic faith. I love that about you. Love it so much, because you identify as a Christian, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. But yet at the same time, your walk, if you want to call it that, has not been impeded at all by the idea of Chinese medicine, crystals, mm-hmm. Science, technology, many things that a lot of people, you talk about this cognitive dissonance, mm-hmm. right? And many people, the moment that they have their beliefs challenged,
their whole identity,
then
is challenged.
Then everything is challenged, right? And you walk this line where I don't want to say you believe everything, because you don't. You identify as a Christian, but you're able to rectify all of these things and still feel really good about your walk. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's a really powerful testament for people, because there's a lot of people out there who don't know what they believe. They think that if they believe one thing, it has to contradict other things and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I would love it if you could talk about that a little bit, because there's a lot of guys out there who don't even have a path when it comes to spiritual. We talk about spirituality. They don't even know what that means to them. Right. And it's not like we want to say this is the way to go, right. But the path that you have gone on has been such a beautiful path of progression it's been natural. You haven't forced anything. I don't want to push anything in you. I think very highly of you. And
thanks, Mike. But I think it all boils down to, again, proof is in the pudding. It's like I had a very traumatic, tumultuous childhood. My dad passed when I was young. And they say that when you go through trauma as a young child, it's almost like your antennas reach out for help. Once those antennas are out, they never come back. So I've had too many miracles in my life where I should be dead 10 times over. And I've had too many things that happen with people observing to say that was a miracle. What just happened? And I realized, even though I, dipped my toes into New Age spirituality, Buddhism, I actually apprenticed with a native shaman for 5 years. Like I did it all, searching. And I kept getting pulled back to the same source of comfort, of support, of love that was always there for me since I was a kid, not through church, but through my connection with God or my connection to Christ. And like I said, I've recently come back, and it wasn't by choice. It's like, like it says in the scripture, like you're chosen before you're born. And I fought it every step of the way my whole life because it just seemed too easy. And I'm an experiential learner, which sucks sometimes because I got to beat my head out against the wall to realize the wall wins, right? And then the last experience that I had that was kind of a miracle, I said, okay, you know what? If this is true, I'm giving you a year as an experiment. I'm giving you a year, and I'm not gonna second guess. I'm just gonna I'm gonna do what you say. I'm gonna try and live proper. And that was 3 years ago. My life has been a blessing ever since. So to me, it all boils down to proof is in the pudding.
Right.
Yeah. So if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And you will know the value of something by the fruit that grows of it. So when I looked at all those people that I used to not worship or follow, but their lives are all a disaster.
Right.
Right. When I look at people now that I look up to, their lives are happy. They make sense. So it all boils down to, you don't need to believe anything. Follow the results. And when you see the results in people that have a certain faith, maybe look into it. Maybe test it. Not test it, but experiment. It might be worth it for you. And this is, this is the connection I had when I was 4 years old after my dad died. So,
well, you always hear that thing. It's so easy to believe in God when you're a kid. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's because kids are stupid.
No, I have both my daughters, my 14-year-old and now my 5-year-old, tell me stories about when they were up in heaven with Godders looking down, choosing me and their mummy. How do you argue with that?
Yeah.
Like my 5-year-old daughter now, she'll say, I remember when I was in heaven and I chose you and mom. And I'm like, really? And my oldest, Katrina, she was like, when she was 2, she used to talk about Godders. Yeah, I was an angel and I saw you and mommy and I chose you. So I still thank them for choosing me to be their dad.
I appreciate you opening up about this, because the thing about you is you're not preachy and you're certainly not judgmental. Like, I look at the people that are in your life, the people that you have worked with and whatnot. And many times people who would call themselves a Christian, it's like, okay, yeah, because yeah, that makes sense, because you're judging this person, this person, this person, this person, and you're doing.
It says it's not your job to judge.
Well, and I get that, but you live that, and it's just amazing that you have this ability to work with so many different philosophical ideas, not judge, and find the good in everything, but still at the end of the day, you can apply it to God created everything.
I'm just trying to figure it out like everybody else.
Right.
That's it.
You are an onion in the way of the layers that go are very, very deep. And we have just only explored a few of them today.
Yeah, because I would love to talk about stuff to help, guys going through stressful situations and trauma and all that stuff, because I've had to go through a lot of that.
And yes, you took the words out of my mouth. Like you come across so well put together and pain free when your life has been anything but.
Yeah.
But it's been what you've done with it and how you have dealt with those challenges. And maybe that's made you that much more of an effective healer.
Well, the thing that literally just popped into my mind is a piece of coal and a piece of diamond. The only difference is the pressure. Apply pressure and stress and heat and agitation, and that piece of coal turns into a diamond.
Yeah.
But you have to go through that in order to change.
Well, you've certainly done that. We have just scratched the surface. I would love it if, as the community in He Changed It builds, I would love it if you spent time there, so our listeners and viewers can come in and they can definitely pick your brain about some things. Where's the best? Do you have a website for your water?
Yeah, it's Divine Aqua Vitae, VITAE. That's probably, where all my products are. I've got an Instagram account for that and a Facebook. I'm not a huge social media person yet. I know my business coach says I need to be. So I don't have a huge footprint, but yeah, you can get a hold of me through the website.
Very cool. Yeah. Andre, I just want to say thank you so much for letting me take advantage of our friendship, that you could come here and open up a little bit. I look forward to doing that more. It's a great excuse for us to hang out and talk anyway, which is good, because we always say that we don't connect enough, and this is a great way to do it. Would you be on the podcast again?
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah. Like I said, I feel like I have a lot of information to share with guys that are struggling because I've been there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. Now, this is why I love being the host of heCast. I love the people that I get to talk to. I love the insights that I get to glean. And I love that the viewers out there and the listeners are doing it with me. And I appreciate when connecting with y'all, and appreciate the fact that we've had nothing but support for what my wife is building and her team is building with He Changed It. Thank you so much for everything. This has been another episode. They go by so fast. Another episode of heCast, the official podcast of He Changed It. My name is Mike Chisholm. Go change something.